be at 60, this whole, this one sugar. Not this, but anybody, if they would be into the ground sugar, and people for the weekend, because you've got real good backup access in these.
What about these sites here across the front row? And the reason I'm
They're
asking,
okay.
and they got backup sites too?
I mean, if they could drive, they can get in. You know.
Okay.
The main thing is you don't want to drive across the people across the road.
Right.
That's the biggest thing.
Okay,
All right.
thanks.
That's very similar. You got a lot of the names on here. This is the same copy I gave to, that Sharon gave to Mark.
This one?
Yeah. So you got a lot of the names on there.
Okay, all right, thanks.
It's my sheet also.
We
but
have
I'll send it
some,
across. Thank you though
Excel
for bringing
sheet
it. I don't know what-
from last year, which I do.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order.
I got it.
We do. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First of all, there'll be a period of comment time for public comment during the meeting. If you do want to be recognized, please raise your hand and wait to be recognized. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. Everyone has a copy of the minutes. Does anyone have any changes or amendments?
No, they were excellent. I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
I'll say aye.
I,
The next one is financial reports. Everyone has a copy of the financial reports. Are there any questions or comments on those?
Motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Next is Rachel Ostrike, the auditor.
Rachel Strike, Starke County Auditor. I came to request to be on the agenda because I wanted to clarify some things with the board and a little bit with you guys. I've looked into the park board minutes a couple times, and as secretaries trying to take the minutes, and even when because they're going to be hiring a new office person to replace Wendy and Sarah. So I wanted to try to get this out there before the new person started. It is very back and forth during the entire meeting. And the State Board of Accounts, they come and they take our minutes, they take our financials. It's very hard as a secretary to try to keep it organized when there's so much back and forth between the board and the public. We, of course, most of our boards in Starke County, we welcome public comment. We want public comment, but that's usually done at the end of the meeting, unless the president of the board or whoever's doing the board that night, if the president isn't there, asks for public comment. So I would ask that you guys not go back and forth, let the board get their business done, and then you will be heard at one point or another. You're not gonna scold me for that?
No, I'm not. Any questions about that?
I wanted to clarify the payment processes, and while I may have talked to you, some of you guys in my office, why I can't take money in my office. So the auditor's office is not one that we're not supposed to handle money. The park board is their own department, and the department itself, like the planning commission department, they take all their fees, they take all their fines. At the end of the day, they do their own financials and they take the money down to the treasurer, and then the treasurer certifies those funds, and then they come up to the auditor's office for us to enter it into the financial system. We are not supposed to be handling money, just not at all. So last year was it was a quick put together, and we made exceptions, but now we're a year into it, and I think we need to do it correctly as through the State Board of Accounts. Hence the reason why you guys are possibly hiring some part-time help to actually become a department, because you are a department. You guys need workers within your department to handle all that. Salary ranges. I know there was a question about the superintendent salary range. In the salary ordinance, I didn't put it in there correctly. I just put what the top range was, but it's actually 37.5 to 43 something.
Is that with the 3%?
43 something is with the 3%.
Okay.
Yeah. So there is a range there. It's just incorrectly listed in the salary ordinance. For your part-time help, your part-time help at the beach and the campground is actually only $8 to $10 an hour. Now for an office person, I feel that could fall under the skilled and unskilled office help that we have throughout the county, which is only like 1107. Is that right, Wendy?
Yeah.
And then skill, which is after a year of being here, is 13.
13, 15, I think.
Yeah, that's where you're sitting right now for your part-time office help. And you can definitely always go to the council and get anything, try to get anything moved. Do you guys have any questions for me? There is a location for your office help in Annex 2 with phone, computer. Well, I don't know if they have a computer. I know you guys have a laptop.
They had a laptop is what Mark used.
Yeah. But their printer, I know they have a printer over there. So we do have room for you. And actually, I don't know if you guys knew this, but EMA is supposed to be coming over here in the EMS office. So there's even more area over there too.
Do you know when that's going to happen, Rachel?
I need to call Joe and find out when
Okay.
he's gonna be moving.
So since the potential exists for us to have 2 employees, they're probably both going to need a computer and we've got 1 laptop. So do you suggest that we purchase another laptop? Because there will be some mobility. I mean, you know, with a laptop rather than a desktop.
Yeah, both of them, the superintendent and your part-time help will need a laptop.
Okay.
Because that's how you're gonna access our financials. That's how they're gonna be putting in, because if the office person isn't there and the superintendent happens to be there, he needs financials to enter in payments as well. So like when the campers start making payments to the office person or to the superintendent, they're actually gonna be able to get in our financial system, print out a receipt, give the camper a quietus right then, and it's all documented in the financial system. And then that person at the end of the day would go through the process, give the money to the treasurer, and then come up and see us with what the treasurer is saying that my office needs to receive in, but we don't handle the cash. What?
They can't do a quietus,
The,
not the office, but they would have to bring it to our office and we do the quietus, just like that's how all the other offices do.
so like a daily total.
Yeah, like however they,
yeah.
yeah, because each department, like they have their own.
So what does the planning
sheet.
commission use for a receipt to give
Um,
the person?
I don't know. I don't know if like she has a receipt book or what
She
she.
has like her own system that tallies it. So then
Okay.
she gives us that paper with her daily totals on it.
And then we have to play this in it.
So we'll have to figure out, but we don't handle the money, we just handle the paperwork.
Right.
So we'll have to figure out what we can do for them as far as giving receipts, right?
Yes.
Do you have any questions for me?
You're the
Alright.
best, Rachel.
I am out of here.
Right, the next item on the agenda is the superintendent position. We had interviews last Wednesday and had 4 very good candidates for various positions in the department. Does anyone have any comments on?
I'm excited.
After the interviews, I would like to make a recommendation that we offer the position of superintendent to Cameron Kopka.
If that's a motion, I'll second it.
It is.
Only one eye, Sky.
Aye.
Only me. Congratulations. This Cameron Kopka's right here. And Cameron, you'll have to meet with Sarah after the meeting and get an appointment to get signed in and get on board. And welcome. We're excited to have you.
So when is she starting? Tomorrow?
So it would have to wait till she gets like, we have to wait for her background and her drug test and stuff to come back. So usually within 48 hours is what it takes for us to get that back.
So look at
Okay, so
Monday.
maybe Monday. So is that okay? So you're starting officially on Monday, okay? They'll show you where the office is and where your laptop is and everything you need. And several of the campers are here today, so I'm sure they'll want to introduce themselves after the meeting tonight.
We have to set a salary tonight, or how's that work?
I think so. If it's with the 3%, that's what it is, so.
Right. Well, somebody needs to make a motion on that, the salary.
Well, okay, I'll make a motion that we start at the lower end and the range at $38,625. However, we'll do an evaluation after 6 months with the potential for a raise, 1 year potential for a raise, and 2 years potential for a raise. Isn't that what
That's correct.
how we normally kind of do things, Rick?
Yeah.
So.
Right.
So 6 months from now, we may be able to bump that up depending on your evaluations and performance. So
Second,
I would second that.
all ayes, aye.
I,
Opposed, nay. Okay. Next, the office clerk position. An excellent candidate for this as well.
I would make a motion that we offer the position of clerical to Tabitha Dillner.
I'll second that.
All ayes, aye.
I,
Opposed, nay. Right, Tabitha Dillon, I spoke to her. She will do the same thing and contact Sarah
start on Monday.
if possible, yes.
Okay. And the reason I'm asking is because I'll put it on the Facebook page, because I know a lot of folks that have some, are interested in when they can start making their payments, and she would be the one to collect those. So if you're both starting on Monday, you might have a mad dash into the office to make those payments.
And her starting wage would be $11.07, correct at the bottom by ordinance.
That's a good question. And can we start at the skilled level? Because
I don't see why not. She's pretty skilled.
she is.
I wouldn't be opposed to that at all.
I make that motion.
I'll second it.
Oh, say aye.
Aye. And then are you gonna go see about maybe adjusting? that?
Yes, I'm gonna meet with the council the next meeting. So we can adjust that hourly rate.
Okay.
Is there gonna be set hours or anything, or is that to be determined after she?
It's to be determined. I'm thinking Cameron and Tabitha can kind of get together. I do know it's for the next month while we get the piers and campsites straightened out. There's gonna be a lot of work to be done in this next month. So I'm guessing it'll probably be the 30 hours a week for the first month
For Tabitha.
for Tabitha, yes.
Yeah, I think so. And then she could probably cut back over summer once everything gets set
Yes.
up in that. So,
And I think we're gonna meet with Tabitha and Cameron next week sometime with Rachel, get things sorted out so we can start making phone calls and getting everything set for the opening of the season. Right. The next on the agenda is the 5-year plan update. We have Emily from the Kirksey here. We're gonna open this meeting for public discussion for the draft park 5-year park plan.
We'll talk or,
You want to?
okay, so hopefully you all have had a chance to review what was submitted to DNR. We did receive comments back from DNR, and I am in the process of updating that information. And I'm kind of here tonight to see what comments the public and what comments the board has. Some of you have submitted written comments, which I greatly appreciate. That way I make sure that I catch everything. This is what was posted up on the website is a working draft. So we will go through things tonight. And then we will do a final adoption at the April meeting. You guys will pass by ordinance or by resolution. And I also have some ADA certification that you will also pass that gets included in order to make sure that we meet that April 15th deadline to IDNR. So lots of information went into this. I see lots of familiar faces from the work session that we had. So thank you for coming back out again tonight. As this is Starke County's plan. We want your input in this as well as your driving leadership tonight. So I will open for comment and discussion. And then we can kind of go through those topics that I kind of sent out to you, if that's okay.
That sounds great.
So we'll kind of go from there. If you do have comments, if you have specific notations to a particular, if there's a correction or something, if you have something regarding a particular page, if you have any notes or anything like that, please let me know that so that I'm not having to go through. The document has changed. It's actually grown by 3 or 4 pages already. So I will need to know a little bit of background information of where your comments coming from. That would help me out tremendously.
I do have a couple
Yeah.
comments. And most of these are just, matter of form.
Okay,
On the first page, we've had some changeover park board members, so that needs to be updated.
yep, that's already updated.
And I think that just like the county commissioners and county council are listed, I think the president needs to be listed first and the vice president, who is Rick, needs to
Okay.
be listed second. Our county attorney's changed.
Yep, that's already,
Okay.
that's all been updated. I
And
just didn't know. So Rick, you are now president,
No, I'm vice
vice
president.
president.
On page 5, there's also some, it explains how the park board is appointed, but I don't think Wendy's name should be, she's not a park board member.
Okay,
She's listed, and actually she splits that with Sarah, but now we're gonna have a new clerk, so I don't know if you would change that to our new clerk instead of,
I will probably, since the clerk is going to be, I will put that, so later on, I will add a section on here. If you get into the meatier part of the plan, there's actually an area where it lists, that there's a paid superintendent and a paid, so I would add those 2
Okay.
positions, but I can identify those 2 positions within that cover sheet as
okay,
well.
but regardless, where it says about the appointment, since she's not a
Okay.
board, I don't think that should be. on
Okay.
there.
I
That's my
wasn't
opinion,
sure
but
on that. I couldn't find where she was appointed, but I didn't want her,
My opinion.
to
Well, we
not be
appointed
left
her. We
off.
appointed both of them.
Yeah,
so
yeah. but no.
We begged them, so.
Yeah.
On page 17, where it lists Joe Williams' email address,
Okay.
there's a T after Stark and there's no T. You need
Okay.
to strike that T.
Okay,
One thing I did notice is under the SWOT analysis on page,
let me get caught up here,
must
Kathy.
be, okay, sorry about that.
I gotta write all this stuff down still.
I can give you my notes if you want.
Yeah, if you have notes on it, that would be fabulous.
If you can
because
read my
then,
chicken scratching, you can have it.
uh,
On page 18, and then again, there's discussion about the Yellow River
mhm.
on page, must be 24. The park board had worked pretty hard on a kayak launch for the Yellow River. And nothing is mentioned about that. And we do have all the permitting done. We've hired somebody to help us with that. All we need now basically is money. And so that needs to be in the 5-year plan as well, and that needs to be noted.
Is that in addition to, so are there 2 Yellow River access sites, or is there only 1? Because I
We
do
got
have,
5 of them.
okay,
that
because
we're
I do
planning
have
to
1
construct.
annotated in here. I just want to double check.
Are you talking
which,
about the one at Knox? Knox has one already.
Okay,
And we have a couple, like one at 700 is an informal one that we plan to expand.
Okay.
On State Road 23, we're getting land donated right on the river there, right on 23
Okay.
for development. There's one further east, I can't remember the number,
1100 east.
1100 east,
Yes.
Where-
1050 east.
1050 east, where the county already has
Okay.
property, and then there's 1 or 2 after Knox.
Okay.
Well, there's one before the rapids in Knox, and then they already have one after the rapids in Knox.
Okay.
So we want to put in the one before the rapids.
okay,
And then there's at least 1 or 2 others, with the last one being down there by the English Lake access where the Hoosier Valley Railroad train comes and
mhm.
all that together. But we did have an engineer evaluate all the sites. And one thing it does say is the addition of an access site at Range Road would serve as a midpoint. They said that's too dangerous,
Okay,
so we can't put that there.
okay,
But we have a local lady that wrote a wonderful grant. And in the meantime, our local CVC board at their meeting last week has agreed to pay to construct one of the launches.
Okay.
So.
so will you obtain ownership to that then?
Well, it depends on which, yes, the county park board will,
Okay,
yes,
okay.
so, but I'm
I'm
not
only
sure.
asking because I have to update DNR on site so that they can make sure that it gets, because DNR themselves are actually doing a master plan for the state right now. And they're wanting to update all of their sites, and it's based upon sites that are located within everybody's
Okay.
master plan. So I want to make sure that I have every single one of those locations, that if
We
they
can send you
are
a copy of the grant. I think I've got it on my computer. I can
either the
email it to
grant
you.
or just a map with here's where these are, if we can get that.
You have that?
I was
Okay.
like, if you have a map, that would be great, because that's gonna tell me which ones are developed, which ones plan to be developed. If you could put just a summary like that in there, that would be,
Rick's got that. He'll-
Wonderful.
Send that to you tomorrow.
that would be great.
But the one question I do have, because when the CVC board discussed that,
Mhm.
paying to construct one of those, the comment came up about the site at Knox before the rapids,
Uh-huh.
which would be a new developed site. And so the mayor was there, and so there was a discussion about who would be in charge of that and who would, because it is kind of a collaborative project, but
Right.
so it's a little unclear exactly how that's gonna
Okay,
take out, to be
okay.
honest with you.
Just make sure that I know that.
Rick will
Because,
tell you.
okay, if I can, because I can annotate that, this position is still yet to be determined on ownership or partnership. There's several ways we can address that. That way they still know it's on their radar.
Okay.
Just isn't developed yet.
Okay, and then on the 5-year plan, when I went back and looked at that, one thing that's on here, and it was mentioned in the body of the document too, about at Bass Lake Beach, that there was no activities. And on here is Kayak Rentals, and with a cost and budget for 25,000 with $5,000 per year.
Mhm.
We already got a grant last year from the Community Foundation. We already bought kayaks.
Okay.
And we also have bicycles. All we need to do is develop an agreement for leasing them out, which I have one from our insurance company that I haven't shown our attorney yet, but I will. And we have to set up to be able to accept credit cards
Right,
and have somebody there to rent them out. So
right.
I would think you could remove that
Okay.
and put in the body. We do have those things. We just need to put the final touches on those.
And that was more specific, not to programming, to additional programming outside of, the proposed kayak rentals, like movie nights, drive-in. food
Oh,
truck
well, it
nights.
says kayak
like
rental,
that.
so I
Yeah.
mean, how would I
No,
know?
so
that that
that's
was
in,
moving on?
within the text of programming, that's what that's kind of more geared towards.
You might want to adjust that a little bit,
yes,
because we
okay.
do have sufficient kayaks.
Yes.
And
Now.
and
is-
bicycles.
Right, is that going to be, are you gonna want something in here though for maintenance of those that type of equipment?
I would think that would be a budgetary item, not
Okay.
probably, most likely. That's
Okay.
what I am thinking,
Okay.
actually. And then when we talk about the beach house, the one thing I don't see on here is, it says local grants and budget. I know there's a historic preservation grant, at least there had been, with a maximum, I believe, of 100,000,
50,000.
50,000. And that is a historic building. So is that,
I would steer you away from that one.
and why would you do that? I'm just asking.
So if you remember, we talked about it when we were going into doing some improvements, I think at the courthouse at one point. We came up and talked to you about that one.
Yes.
There is a lot of things that you would not be able to do to that building, because there are a lot of stipulations through the State Historic Preservation Office.
Okay.
So it would basically be, you could have it to what it currently was. There's not gonna be a lot for like retrofitting or anything like that to make it meet your current needs.
Okay,
There are other opportunities, that would fit your needs and get you more bang for your buck than that.
okay, well, I do remember us talking, but now that you mentioned that, I do,
Yeah.
but
There's a
I
lot
also, I
of
remember as soon as you said
stipulations.
50,000, I discarded that right off. the
Yeah,
bat,
there's a
'cause
lot
there
of
was not enough money,
stipulations with
so.
it, and there's a lot of paperwork and a lot of regulatory, like you have to have a state certified architect that is known with architectural and preservation background, because they have to work on it. It's a lot.
Okay, all right, well, we can just.
Okay,
But, and what about the Water and Conservation Fund? Is that an option? Because you have local grants and budget.
right. So if you look on that was just something, other grants. Yeah, Mark put this together. And it's, just grants, local grants, budget. Yes. So if you look at the next page on page 29, funding and state agency programs, that lists everything that is basically open and
Right,
current.
so that would be applicable to the beach house.
That
if
would be
we wanted
applicable to the beach house.
Because when we get done with this, we're gonna apply for that grant, is that correct?
That's up to you guys. That's what,
I know that's one reason we want to get this done, so we would be eligible for that.
that's one of the things I want to talk about tonight.
Okay,
Because
is
we
the
gotta
maximum on that
decide.
150,000?
No, the maximum for that is 200,000, 400,000 total project.
Okay,
Actually, 500, it's 250,000 now. They upped it and it is in perpetuity. So
what do you mean perpetuity?
it's a forever funded program.
The program, not you're not gonna give us
No,
the
no.
money to us, okay.
No, no.
All right, okay. I
You're not
got
that
you,
lucky.
I got you, okay. All right, yeah, I got that.
I wish
Yeah,
we could be that lucky.
Yeah. Then on the sewers,
Right.
we've got, is that something that, could, and I don't know, maybe that'd be an engineering question. Is that something that we couldn't stagger, like we do row A this year and row B?
That is gonna have to be an engineering and a budgetary question.
Okay,
We are not engineers or anything like that. It is a substantial project. That is something that you would want to talk to. I don't know if you want to work with Bob on that. Or
Bob
whoever.
Lloyd?
Yeah.
yes.
And say, hey, does it make sense to do this like in a phase
Mhm.
to meet our needs, or what would you suggest? Yeah, it's a substantial cost. Any type of infrastructure project right now is a substantial cost. I know we're all familiar with what bids are currently coming in at and things of that nature.
Yes, now, often oh gosh, dang it. The Rural Affairs Office of Ipra,
Right.
often they provide $600,000 periodically for sewers.
Yeah, I don't know if this would be an eligible project
Okay. that's
because
fine.
it is for permanent residents. And I don't know, that would be a question that I would have to take to them. And especially since this would be kind of, it's an income generating type deal. I don't know how that would all work. Because it has to be able to serve, if you go after that type of grant, you would have to basically, and I don't even know if we could apply for it. We would have to make sure that based upon income, because if obviously these improvements are only going to be specific to basically those residents. So we would have to do an income survey and things like that. I'm happy to ask and see if that's even on the table. Edwin and I were kind of throwing that around and we're like, we've never known them to fund anything like this type of.
Well, it's for the good of the
It
public.
is for the good of the public, but I don't know, because your end users are still going to be basically seasonal residents.
Okay. Well, maybe we could rent space in the winter if we had sewers that they could use.
Yeah, I will definitely check, Kathy.
All right.
I'm not above asking.
Okay. And I think that's really the only comments or questions I had on here. I thought it was very well put together, and I appreciate the work that you have done on it. But I do want to make sure that that's updated, it's in particular about the kayak launch,
Yes.
because we have done a lot of work on that already.
Yes, and I was not aware of that.
Okay,
And yes, if I had that information, it would have definitely been included.
okay.
We don't bring up for public comment. now.
Yes,
Do I come up to make it or just?
You can do it from there. Where,
I'm
whatever you're
Anita.
comfortable with.
I'm not comfortable at all, but that's because I'm not a public speaker, but my name's Anita Hay. And last night we were at the commissioners meeting and the Stellar Group came in front of them with their final plans for their grant money. And they omitted a pavilion at Coons Lake. So could that please be omitted from page 9 of the document? You want me to keep going or can you answer in between or how's that
Hold
work?
on one second.
it's under the.
That's something we can take into consideration to do that.
There are a few references that describe a piece of what some might call a park around here, apparently. But it's directly in front of our home at 8025 North Tippecanoe Drive. It is not a park. And so right now you've added, it wasn't in your last 5-year plan, but you've added it to your map even. You're calling it Coons Lake Beach or Park or something there. And then you do descriptions of it twice in the document that I've noticed. And I think it's in the maps twice. And somehow because you put it in the maps, I think it's like all over in Google and everything now too. I'm not sure what, because we got a how did we enjoy the beach message from Google yesterday, so for the first time. And those, we would greatly appreciate if you remove those. And I have a suggestion, I'm not just a complainer, so I have some additions that I think would be nice.
Okay.
You make very little mention, I think it's in there, but there is a very nice fishing pier at an access site in Starke County at the dam. It's got ADA accessible parking. You could describe that beautifully in that document, and I think it would improve it if you haven't already thought of that.
Okay.
And I have one other suggestion I'd like to hand to you.
Sure.
I gave it to Mr. Pierman and he made it sound like I was supposed to go. I couldn't talk to you guys for some reason because you're not elected and he was gonna get it to you. Did you guys already see a plan I gave him for a park?
I did not.
Okay, so I just make sure you have it. This park that I'm suggesting lies in Marshall County, but don't poo-poo it yet. So here's 2 copies for you guys. I don't have any more. There's 5 acres of DNR land at the public boat launch at Coons Lake. Currently, the boat launch that was being used by most of the boaters at Coons Lake is closing. Are you aware of that? I mentioned it last summer that I thought it would happen that way, and it is. Stanley's Marina.
Okay.
Okay, so then now the only boat launch that they're gonna have is gonna be at the DNR property, and that's in Marshall County. So I know that's not your county, but that's all we've got to use in Starke County, okay, as far as if you got a big boat. So DNR improved the ramp, but unfortunately it didn't include dredging to be able to use the ramp. And so currently it's like 18 inches of water we've tried to put in, and we can't put our big boat in there. We've tried, but so they have a whole plan. The KLCD is who's behind that. Are you familiar with those initials? Okay. And they have a plan for dredging so that soon we'll be able to use the launch, meaning by next fall, maybe, I think is where they're at, possibly. And but the 5 acres is right there at that boat launch where it's all DNR property. It might appear to be a wetland, But I know when I was younger, that used to be part of the lake. And so I think it would be really wonderful if it could become part of the lake again in the future. I'm not saying tomorrow, but you're doing a 5-year plan. You get to say, these are visions that we can see. And I can see that you could eventually use our KLCD funds that are coming from the entire lake, both counties. That's what they're going to use to dredge now. And toward helping with making a park at that location. And I know for a fact the first person says, no, you can't do it because DNR is going to require 4 acres for every acre that you take of wetland. Number one, like I said, it really wasn't a wetland. It just looks like it now. But years ago, my father helped them get 17 acres that was not wetland. It was just farmland to make a wetland so that your lake could have clean water. And it hasn't been maintained ever. And they're due to maintain it, but they keep collecting money to try to maintain it. And then they keep getting train wrecked. So if that were to be maintained, 17 acres fits that 1 acre per 4 acre qualification. If somebody would work with DNR and make them see that, you'd be good to go already. But that's my suggestion, that you have a vision like that, and I gave you a picture of the vision.
And we appreciate that. and
Okay.
We'll take your comments under consideration and for the draft.
That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Sorry, I'll let them talk first.
Stephen, go ahead.
All right, thank you. I'm Steve Lucas. I'm with the Prairie Trails Club. And I have written comments, so I'm not going to take all your time going through the written comments. But I wanted to speak briefly. This mostly has to do with interfacing and participation with you and the Prairie Trails Club. Let me give you one here. The main thing we want to say is that we think this 5-year plan is a wonderful step forward, and it always could kind of get off on the criticism part. There are a few things that we hope can be clarified. One of them that comes to mind is that there are references in different ways to the Erie Trail. We hope that you can just refer to the Erie Trail universally. It gets confusing to people when there are other names used. I know that's the history to it. One of the elements in the 5-year plan refers to the Erie Trail as the EERIE Trail, like in Ooskari, and it's not the Ooskari Trail. It's like the Lake Erie Railroad Trail. But there are most little things like that. But there are a variety of things in here, and if you have questions, I have my phone number and would be happy to talk and respond to any of those questions as we go forward.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you for your input. Any other comments? Rick Anderson.
I'm Rick Anderson. Hey, this is not a new thing. About 4 years ago, we went ahead and got a permit to protect about 12 trees on the beach, and we put some glacial stone out there. This permit, well, some glacial stone was put on the beach, I noticed, but it's really not around the trees. The permit is good till July 2nd, 2022. It was a 2-year, took 2 years to get the permit. I know the property owners paid the money for the permit. I think there was about $200 spent approved by the commissioners in Starke County to send out letters to adjacent property owners. If that is not done by July 2nd of this year, the permit expires. I just want to make sure, and I have my copy of the DNR permit. Also, Charlie Chesick was, he's the one who's on this permit. And maybe I could just give you my copy.
I give it to Cameron. I think she'll probably be the one taking, probably will be one of her tasks in the next few months.
Well, that would be good if that happened, because when I was a young lad, I think there's about 50 more feet of beach over there. It's all been eroded, and this is just another example of trees falling in the lake and losing another 10, 12 feet of beach. It just erosion of the whole beach, so I think that's my main comment.
I think that first thing worked out pretty well. It looks pretty good around the trees, and I think that's a good start.
Yeah, so there's about 12 trees involved there.
And I forwarded your comments to Emily by email. She has that as well.
Thank you for providing those. It's much appreciated.
Any other comments? On the Zoom?
Sorry, earlier I tried to make a comment, but it's hard to see. I can't see anybody other than you guys. So, my name's Aaron Robbins. Actually, I'm an attorney who represents Miss Anita Haig, who spoke earlier. I just kind of want to throw some clarifying things down with the 5-year plan here. Essentially, during I had previously researched kind of what would necessitate a park. And just in general, I kind of looked through like the plats and stuff like that. In particular, over near the Koch North Shore Edition, and it looks like there is a very small sliver of land. Really, it's coastline in between the Haig's property and the lake. And this coastline kind of runs along all of Coons Lake in general. This coastline at one point, is about 8 feet or so between the lake and the Haig's property, as opposed to maybe about 4 feet or less everywhere else. And at one point it was covered with sod, dirt, grass. But since then, it looks like over the recent years, more and more sand's been kind of dumped on that property, which I think now is why it's referred to as a beach. Again, if it's a beach, it's the smallest beach I've ever seen in my life. My only concern there is, of course, I don't believe that land, it doesn't have a parcel number. I don't even believe it's necessarily a beach, so much as just coastal line that now has sand dumped on it as being dictated to be a beach. I spoke with Attorney Schramm about this, and of course I had sent him a letter as well, and I'd be more than happy to send you guys a letter as well to kind of update you on what I believe is going on there. But in short, I guess obviously the main request from the 5-year plan is just to remove reference to this Coons Lake Beach or Coons Lake Tippecanoe Drive Beach, which I'm assuming are one and the same, especially if it's in reference to this tiny little slab of land. For no other reason than for the fact that it's not really a beach, a park, or anything. It's a coastline, and it just seems like it's kind of misleading. And I guess that's a concern I have for the public as a whole. That, and of course the Haigs as well, is they have a little piece of coastline that's now being dedicated or proclaimed to be much more than it really even is. Which, if it was more, trust me, I think they'd be excited, but there's just nothing there.
Well, we appreciate your comments, and we will definitely take that under consideration. Any other comments? Okay, Emily, you have a few things to discuss?
Yes. So I sent Rick an email earlier today with just kind of, I'm going over some things, going over my notes from DNR. And obviously with the latest with Stellar. So the big topic that this is just some things for you to pursue, think about. Obviously, we've heard from 2 different individuals tonight, Coons Lake Beach, what you as a board need to make a decision of how that is referenced, or if it stays or is removed from the plan. That is something that you need to consider, and you need to make that decision before I submit a final plan to DNR. There are, as we did submit that second survey, of, hey, what are your ideas, or what would you like to see in the townships, basically? What other properties? So there were some other ideas thrown out of, we would love to see that it's listed in the additional, I think it's in like the township overview.
Yes.
So on page 24 of the draft, just recreation at Coons Lake. This is just Coons Lake in general. walking trails, rentals, more defined area, playground area. So this is just what the public has kind of said. I don't know if you want to look back to that survey information and you could utilize that for maybe a different potential project to pursue, or something. I mean, these are all just things based upon what the public has said, and just from comments received throughout the process, that obviously that is not going to be moving forward on the Stellar side. So you guys just need to have that conversation amongst yourselves or however you want to pursue that. One of the things too, obviously we want to make sure it takes money to make money. We want to make sure that, and this is kind of something Mark had kind of talked about. Obviously, I know Mark is no longer with us in this board, but we want to make sure that your user fees and your fee schedules and things like that are generating the proper income in order to make those necessary improvements, to make your facilities truly a top-notch facility for your residents and for visitors. We want that to be an attraction point so that you can get their money when they come and visit. So that's just something to kind of keep and think. And I tell this to all of my park boards. This is something that you should evaluate annually. At least when you're doing your 5-year plan, you really need to look at the hard numbers of, what does your fee schedule look like? Are you able to sustain your properties? Are you able to do the necessary maintenance? Are you able to pay the bills? So that's just something. I did throw in a section based upon DNR. Greg is very, Greg Bifus, who's the state planner for DNR. We went back and forth on this a couple of times of making sure that when I write this plan, that it's park centric. So it's, what does this mean? What do those user fees mean for your park? Obviously, we know what the low to moderate income is for the county. We know what the poverty rate is for the county. So we want to make sure that our properties and that your properties and your programs are affordable to all, but that you're still able to make sure that your properties are running efficiently and effectively. So I would just like you guys to kind of take a look at that. I know some ideas have been kind of thrown out of possibly looking at like work campers. If you would want to partner with your campers that come, it's been a very effective and efficient program that they kind of help you with maintenance or doing the gatekeeping and things like that. So you're not having to, it would kind of allow a discounted rate on their end in order for them to help you out. So just there's a lot of different information out there of how other programs, how other parks have been successful in making sure that their programs are still affordable, but that they're also able to still make those necessary and essential improvements. Because obviously you guys have beautiful properties and you want to make sure that you can sustain those beautiful properties. The other thing that I want to talk about tonight, this is one that I don't have a lot of information on. And this is something obviously DNR hits very heavy on, accessibility. So how are your properties accessible? Obviously, we know that there are, we have handicap access signage, things like that. But it's truly looking at your properties from an outsider's perspective, or from, somebody with a disability of, can you effectively get from the entrance of your property and utilize every single aspect of that property safely and efficiently for people with all mobility. And I think that an evaluation like that could be very beneficial.
The county just, I think last night, said they are initiating an ADA transition plan.
Okay.
That I think USI is going to be doing for the county.
Awesome.
Would that be a perfect thing for them to do?
Yes, that would be a wonderful thing for them to do. USI is great to work with. I work with them over in Monticello on some of their park improvements. So that is great information to have, because one of the things that Greg did know is how do you get information about like how your properties are accessible out to your public. And this isn't just, I mean, we can look at this from the county level. So, you know, how do people know? And I think that that could just be a matter of on your website listing, you know, what accessible features are available. You know, you have accessible pavilions. Do you have the ADA picnic tables? Do you have accessible boat ramps? And especially if you're looking at doing ramp improvements or pier improvements, things like that, that's all stuff that should be considered moving forward, because you want to keep moving forward rather than maintaining something that is possibly outdated and not meeting current standards and current needs of all citizens. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. You will see that I do put a lot of that information in this newer version. Just literally imagine yourself or find a friend who may have a mobility issue, whether it's just somebody walking with a cane or something. You know, when they step into, if you have loose gravel for parking lots in all of your areas, that's difficult terrain. If you want them to be able to rent a kayak, how are they going to be able to get themselves into a kayak if they're in a wheelchair? Currently, you don't have that type of system. And so I think that that's really key features that you as a board need to consider also while we're making these, while we're in this process with this plan. And that kind of all leads up to the Land and Water Conservation Fund. You can get a lot accomplished for $500,000, basically. So it's a 1-to-1 match. I sat down and basically did a pre-score today. I wasn't sure of what project you wanted to focus on. If you wanted to do beach house, or if you wanted to try and combine and maybe do beach house and parking lot and restroom improvements or things like that. Obviously, we don't have current engineering estimates or architecture estimates, so we don't know what those costs could look like. Or if you wanted to look at, do you do the beach house and, you know, your pier system, things like that. I'm going to leave you with this score sheet. This is last year's score sheet. The new ones don't come out yet. Typically their score sheets don't update, but this is their scoring criteria. And currently I have you, I believe, at about 25 to 28 points out of an 81 total. And that's very good. You're not going to get anything over that most likely, because the rest of the points are all through acquisition. But you're getting a lot of points because this would be your first time application for your park board. This would also be your first time application for that property. So I will say we need to figure out if you want to move forward with Land and Water. So applications are due June 1st, which is very quickly approaching. I know it may not seem like it, but from a grant writer's perspective, it's quickly approaching. DNR typically likes to have a meeting with your park board or whoever, basically a pitch person. And we meet, typically now it's virtual, and we pitch your project to them. And they go through this criteria and they tell you, okay, well, yeah, we think you could get this point. We know, yeah, you're not going to get this point. And they tell you, okay, well, what if we did this? What if we made this type of addition? So they really help you make a more competitive application. There is a substantial amount of information that goes into these applications, and a lot of mapping and things like that. So the earlier that we can get that meeting set, or for you guys to figure out what you want to do, I mean, we've got great ideas started in this 5-year master plan. And I think it's just a matter of fine tuning and deciding what those priorities are going to be, and what funding you have available. Because basically anything above that 500,000 threshold, it's on you 100%. So it's a great program. It is a long program. So I will tell you, we typically, since it's a federally based program, your project would be reviewed by the state, and then it goes off to DC and gets reviewed by the National Park Service. And then they have the final say of if your project gets awarded or not. And it takes basically 18 months from when that application is submitted until you hear something. And then it takes a little bit longer before we can start. We try our hardest to speed the process up as much as we can, but there are timelines that we can't move forward. National Park Service won't let us move forward on certain things. So just keep that in mind. And that also kind of plays in favor because it allows you to do some additional fundraising and things like that, just in case, because again, we don't know what the bidding market's gonna be. So I'm gonna leave this with you. As far as my part, those are my last questions that I have for you all. And if there are any other questions that you guys have or anything, I mean, I'm happy to answer those. You all know how to get in contact with me. If you have any other question after tonight, please don't ever reach out your email or call me.
How soon do you need feedback from us for your final draft?
Preferably, I would like to be handing you a final draft on April 9th. I believe that's when your next meeting is at the 9th. I would like to have it before then so that I could have things ready. So that would be, and I will make corrections. I will make these updates, but I do need to know, obviously on those items that I laid out for you tonight, I will need to know something so that I can make those. I have already made a few changes. I have plan A, plan B, because I wasn't sure what direction we were going to go. So I have made some additions and some corrections to some maps and things of that nature. But let me know. I mean, if you could by the end of March, definitely. So that gives me some time. We do have a very heavy Indiana Office Community Rural Affair grant round that are also due April 14th and April 29th. So our office is kind of busy right now.
So in terms of that grant,
Yes,
the land and soil,
yeah, land and water.
or land and water. So since the maximum you can get from them is $250, and then we have to match it with $250.
Correct.
Say we're able to do that, we're looking at $500,000. But not for at least 18 months, a minimum of 18 months is what you're saying.
Right.
So if we wanted to, for example, put the beach house in that, would we be able to use the beach house for anything in the short term?
That is a question that I would have to ask DNR. I think you probably could, but I'm not going to say 100% on that. I mean, I would say that you could probably get your single season use out of it, but I would want to double check that before, just to make sure.
Okay. And then I'm assuming that we would be able to say we chose the beach house and we had, some of that work done, and we have our architect from Coons Lake, and yeah, Bob. God dang it! I tell you, don't tell me what I'm going to say. If we wanted to add, say that, for instance, the removal of the swim platform and the beach restoration into that, along with the rehab of the beach house, would we be able to do
So it
that?
has to all be in one application.
Well, I
So,
understand
right.
that, but we could put it all into one application.
That, yes, so you could put it all into one application. DNR will go through and tell us what they think is going to be your best application, and say, let's focus on this based upon, and I mean, obviously, you've got to look at some engineering estimates and things like that to see really what you could get the best bang for your buck.
So I don't mean to keep beating this to death.
No,
I just
no.
want to make sure I understand
Yeah.
this. So say we thought this application, and say, just for instance, that we include so much for the rehab of the beach house,
Right.
removing the swim platform,
Yep.
the beach restoration, maybe the pavilions or something.
Mhm.
Are you saying that the DNR could come and say, well, we're really not going to fund those pavilions, but
Yep.
we could fund the beach restoration?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they pick,
Well,
even if
so look at that score sheet, because you're gonna see where we're gonna be able to get a lot of the points. So, and if we do, so typically if we have beach restoration and things of that, we have to put together a management plan. So how are we going to manage this asset, basically? How are you gonna make sure that erosion is not a factor, or how can you slow erosion? What type of things are you gonna put in place to make sure that you're not gonna have, what was it, 10 to 15 feet of erosion over 50 years? Would you even give it that long?
50 feet.
So, I mean, we have to be able to provide that type of information. You get those points, we can put together whatever we really want in that scope of work, just as long as they basically say, yeah, this is a really strong project. And that it meets all of their standards. So it's just like any other type of grant application. We can go in with this huge laundry list, but then we may have to taper it down.
Okay, I understand.
You got it now?
Yeah, I
Okay.
got it. Yeah, thank you. Well, I think we're definitely gonna do that. I mean, that was
Okay.
one of the main reasons, not the only reason. I
Right,
mean,
right.
it was time for us to
It's
get
time
this
to do it,
updated,
right.
so. And we, there's other grants that we want to apply for that, this would be very beneficial for, but
Right,
obviously, that was the big prize.
right. And one of the other, and like, say if you wanted to do that, but you didn't want to, maybe we don't want to include the pavilions or a playground update. I would highly encourage you to look at the Creating Places project or program from IHCDA and Patronicity. It offers a huge community buy-in, and really makes the public feel they have ownership in that project. Great program. That's what a lot of our smaller parks are actually doing to do. DeMont used it for playground equipment. A lot of the other places are using it for, park shelters, gazebos, things like that. It's a great place. I
I'm
mean,
familiar with that. We
Yeah.
used it for the Veterans Monument.
okay, awesome.
so-
Yeah. So you know how it works.
Yes, I do.
I mean, Bridget's great to work with. And it's just a really great program to get those smaller ticket projects, so that you can maybe utilize that local funding to go to these larger projects. So,
Are there any other comments about the 5-year plan? Okay, thank you very much, Emily.
right, thank you guys for your time.
And we will be contacting you soon.
Excellent.
All right, next on the agenda is the IPRA membership. Kathy, you know a little bit.
Well, just a little bit. Debbie Nix, who is from, she works with the Purdue group, had gotten a grant for a free membership to this organization, which is Parks and Recreation. I'm not sure, international, or I don't remember what I stands for. Indiana. Is it Indiana?
Yep.
Okay, you probably know more about that than I do.
The other one, nationals, NRPA.
Okay, so well, then you tell them what it's about. We had a free membership, is what I know.
It's a networking with other park and recreation departments across the state. And it works on programming, grant writing, just all different kinds of things, communicating with each other. So
Well, the way I understood it from Debbie, she couldn't be here tonight. Our application to get a free membership for the year was approved.
it's about a $300 value. So
And there's a webinar coming up that she thought that was part of the email that she forwarded to us. So I'll need your email, because I said I was sure that we have to fill out an application. And I said, I thought we were going to be hiring a park superintendent, and that would be one of your first jobs, is to fill out the application and sign up for that webinar probably.
we can check and see what kind of membership that they're paying for, because there's one that you can include like up to 2 board members as well as a superintendent and stuff like that. There's different levels of, so.
Well, actually, where your office is going to be, Debbie's office is right next door. So you'll be able to check in with her.
Great.
We're missing a new board member tonight? Did you
Yes.
appoint one?
We do, well, the commissioners did.
He was appointed and was there during the interviews the last Wednesday. He was not able to meet it because he was just appointed. He already had something planned for today. He will be here next week. His name is Tom Bush. All right, the next on the agenda is the boat slip contract and fees for jet skis and boats.
I had a couple of people, after I posted all the fees, I had a couple of messages asking about the charge for jet skis. because some of them had boats and jet skis. And apparently I forwarded one of those to you guys, so there needs to be a decision made on that, number one. And then we do have a contract for the boat slips that was recommended by our insurance company. And Justin did some work on this. And I just hate to say this, but it's too much, I think. I think if we gave these guys a 7-page contract for a boat slip, they'd probably really have a nervous breakdown, so.
Well, all fairness, 1 page is an exhibit.
Oh, all right,
Yes.
okay, so,
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm happy to pare that down as much as you think is necessary. You know, a lot of the sections that I have in there are fairly boilerplate, but necessary. I
right.
would say.
Right.
Um, You know, if you have, you know, I can probably pare it down to, 4 page of content. You know, there is a little bit more in there. To be honest, I've never dealt with boat slips before. This is about the same length of the equipment lease that I did for Winnemac boards of Parks and Rec, and that was dealing honestly with picnic tables and other items that were fairly movable. You know, I can see what I can do to pare it down.
yeah, I mean, I got some time, I haven't gotten through the whole thing, but for example, on utility usage, there is no utility usage for, they just pull in and dock and that's it. And it's, so when I just think it's way too much. I hate to disagree with the attorney, but.
No. I mean, as we pare things down, obviously, there's always something that you're not going to be able, we're not omniscient. There's something that a contract isn't going to try to catch. I try to be
Sure.
as fairly exhaustive as possible. You know, obviously, I understand most people that are reading the contracts are attorneys themselves. They're probably not comfortable with something that they think that they'd have to take to their attorney
Right,
to review
Right,
before they
right,
sign
right,
up for a
right,
boat
right.
slip.
right. Well, yeah, I can give you my comments, but I think that's I don't know, you can ask these guys too, but I think it's more pages than our camper agreement. I can't. But they're just renting a boat slip to put a boat in, so I would hope it to be less than that. I mean, what do you guys think? Is this?
And Carl pointed out, I think 12 month for the lease.
Right,
It might have to be season, way to make it seasonal instead of the 12 months.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
yeah, that's one of the things I picked up too. And it probably should say what it's a lease for. It says a lease agreement, but doesn't say for what, so.
Most
On
of
the
them
heading.
do, so
Yeah, it
For
refers to
boat
the
slips.
exhibit, which would be itemized on that exhibit A, which is what the equipment is qualified.
And then, well, I've got several. And then when it talks about the security deposit, I just think if it just says there's a security deposit, if that's what the board wants to do is ask for a security deposit, we could do that, but I don't think we need 3 paragraphs to talk about that boat slip. And again, on utility usage, there is no utility usage, and there would be no way for us to calculate how to do that anyway, I don't think. Number 6, the title and risk of loss, is that a necessary item in there? We got insurance, so, and I'm assuming that if they got big power boats, they probably got insurance too.
I would hope.
Oh, yeah, I would think so too. I didn't get much further than that, but, and I understand that there's some of this, like the force majeure and all that, that's all, but.
How would you like the length of the term to be? I don't.
The term seasonal, the season starts, we've defined the seasonal term as April 15th to October 31st. Now, whether or not the pier will be up by then so they can dock is questionable. I mean, it depends on how cold it is, because you got to get somebody that'll actually get in that water and.
4:15 to 10:31, so you qualify your.
Yes,
Can comment.
Yeah, generally, correct me if I'm wrong, it's Memorial Day to Labor Day.
for the,
They've always tried to have.
That's
it.
always
Yeah,
like-
Memorial.
there's
That's-
a
That would be
Memorial
great.
Day.
Yeah.
And by
In fact, if
Memorial
they're
Day,
in.
It's
a week
usually the
earlier.
week before to the week after.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and boy, later in the fall would be great. I mean, than Labor Day, because we had some really nice weather this fall.
yeah.
But it's nice to have the piers in so the marina can get the shore stations over there before Memorial Day, but that's up to you guys.
Can we just give Justin like blanket approval to make the modifications that he needs?
Yes, I'd
But
like to,
still-
because I'm sure these folks wanna, because they're very anxious to get their spots secured, and especially since there's a 10% discount if they prepay before April 1st, so.
And he knows what can legally be taken out of there and
Mhm.
still.
Right,
cover us
right,
and
right.
everything.
Believe it or not, this was pared down from what Bliss McKnight offered. so
I
It
well, I
was
knew
pared
that.
down a little bit.
I do know that,
I can
because
appreciate that.
I remember giving it to Marty last year, and he said, whoa, this is gonna take some work. So,
We made comments on this, maybe through this, and work with Justin and then.
Just send it, yeah, just send our comments to him and let him
That would be
work
a
on
good
it,
thing.
and then we'll approve it, and then Cameron will be able to implement this then next week. But I do need to ask, I mean, are we gonna ask for a security deposit? And if so, how much is that security deposit? I don't think we've done that before.
If you're opening to the public, can I just ask a question? What would the security deposit be for?
Well, it would be primarily in case you damage something, I think, or you take a section of that pier with you, or
Okay.
Or you
That's-
hold
for
over-
souvenir,
Or
or
if you hold over to apply the security deposit to a holdover situation. If it is possible to hold over.
I understand that, but how do you keep the public from damaging the pier? Because we can't keep the public off of it now.
Sure.
I know I've heard complaints about that before too.
And
so,
that's usually who damages the pier.
Yeah. I'm not, I
I
mean,
mean,
I
I'm
don't,
not out, whatever you guys do, I'm good. I just want a spot, but yeah, the public. If I'm putting out a security deposit and I'm responsible for that area,
yeah,
I'm gonna protect that area.
Yeah.
But I gotta
right,
be able to
right,
keep the people off of it.
right, I hear you. I don't know if we do really need to, I mean,
In the future, maybe if we find we do need one, but it's been working without it, so maybe we can just go on this year without it and then see if in the future we need it. we
Just
can add it to it.
reevaluate it every year.
Yes.
We're doing that.
The only other damage that can usually take place is if we have a windstorm. Sometimes
Yeah.
it break loose and it'll pull up boards and that, but usually that person that has that slip will get right on it and get it fixed in that.
Just make sure you put in there that people cannot tie to the piers.
Yeah.
That'll damage your piers more than anything.
Okay.
They are not
Okay.
supposed to tie to the piers.
that's a good point. I
That
don't think it
that
says that,
damages
yeah.
piers, and the
Yeah.
majority of the people do not. They put their own poles in or they put their shore stations in.
Okay,
That's what will damage your piers as far as the boaters are concerned.
okay.
Yeah, we'll revise this, we'll make our comments to Justin and then we'll come up with a vote on a revised version of this next month.
Well, we have to do it before April 1st.
Yeah, because if they get the discount, then you have to have it before then.
So if we give him, he had this turned over in a day, so.
Here's a thought too. You just appointed a new superintendent. You know, it's something that I could always run past her and. then
Oh,
she
that's a
could-
good idea, yeah. Okay, as long as she's happy with that, and,
She did a very good job when she worked for the Winnemac Park.
oh,
Parks
you
and
know
Rec.
her, huh?
Oh,
Okay,
yes, so
okay.
you appointed a good one, I
Okay,
think.
okay, well, good, good, I'm glad to hear that, good.
Right, next agenda.
So is that, I'll make that motion,
I'll second it.
okay,
Also, aye.
Aye.
Oh, no.
So these should be available by next week, these lease agreements for the boat slips.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for the feedback.
Okay, next on the agenda is payment contract camper process for 2022 season. We'll be handling a lot of this when we meet with Cameron and Tabitha and Rachel in the next week. And with their first task is to get the camper slips and the boat slips organized and get payments in and contact everyone who has contacted us about that. So that will be their first, basically their first duty for the first 2 weeks. And to get this process going.
And Cameron, I've got a copy of the current, it's just a list of with first names that we've gotten here that you can use, so.
And I have a folder to give you after this meeting that also has information on that, so you can look at it before we meet with Rachel hopefully next week sometime.
And I also have a list of folks that have been, since I put the rates and everything on there, I've gotten quite a few people asking about seasonal sites. And I told them we would only be able to take their names and their contact information for both that and boat slips. But I have also told everybody that we needed to make sure that the current last year's campers and last year's boaters would have to be satisfied first before we could offer anything. So I've got a list for you.
I don't think we need to go on that, anything for that, so the next.
Can I ask a question, Rick?
Yes.
We need to get a process together to accept credit cards. And I don't think that should be a very difficult thing to do. You just go down to the bank. You don't need a credit card to buy things with, but we need a credit card account to receive credit cards. Especially because several people asked me if they could, pay for their spot with the credit cards. Well, we don't accept them right now, but we should be accepting them, and we should have a reservation button and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, so I just set mine up with the city. And it's as simple as going down to the bank and
That's what I thought.
getting it set up through a PayPal is what we did. Where you can easily put the PayPal buttons on the website. And then whoever does the website stuff can put the rental forms on there. They can e-sign them or whatever and accept payment right there.
Perfect.
So as long as the county allows that,
Yes.
Wendy, Sarah?
Yes, I think they do. I mean, because I've talked to Rachel about it in the past. We don't, not a credit card where you buy stuff. That's what
Right.
Rachel has objected to.
Right.
Yes. It's only a credit card account where you can receive payments. And she would probably have to go to the bank with her in order to get that set up properly, to make sure it gets deposited into the treasurer's accounts or however she wants that done.
Yeah, that'd be
That-
Rachel,
yes.
because I mean, we
We'll be
use,
discussing that the next
yeah, I mean,
time
we
Like-
use PayGov when, and that has to, but I don't.
Yeah, so
Well-
I set mine up through the bank and it goes to the city clerk treasurer's office on their email address. So everything goes through there and then they can balance everything out that way.
Okay, perfect. Well, I'd like to make sure that we make I want a motion to make that we explore ASAP getting a credit card account where we can receive payments, but not make payments with a credit card. Because we should have done this before now. And I think it would make a lot easier for some of the campers, number one. And number two, if we start renting out kayaks and bicycles, we have to have a credit card for that. So,
Yeah. And it's safety where people aren't handling the cash.
right.
That's the other good point to it. So
Right.
I'd second that motion if that's a motion.
It is.
All vote aye.
Aye.
So they,
And the other thing, right there was the next one. Sorry, I didn't mean to jump the gun. I want to make sure we talk about it. But I want to talk about something else under this too. So, and I don't think it's on any of these. One of the things that was in this area here was we did not have enough sites for overnight campers. And what we were given here shows that we have right now 19 open sites. And we've got the sites here that are listed. So we need to, and we do have a waiting list for seasonal sites. So how many sites do we want to keep open for? And we need to designate, because frankly, I had one of the, on the Facebook page, one of them felt that the $45 that Mark had us approved for overnights was too much money. So if we're going to charge them a premium, then I think that they need at least 1, 2, 8, 17, and 18. Those are they're closest to the lake, and those are generally considered premium sites. That's 5.
My comment
Yeah, that's them.
is there a way to try and keep those open sites for the weekenders in one secluded area together, not intermingle them in between the seasonal campers?
Well,
Only because in years past, the weekenders tend to leave messes. We keep all of our campsites clean, we pick it up. We don't want to have to pick up their mess.
Sure.
now
They're
that's
probably,
why we need to
they're
charge a
probably
deposit.
rowdier than.
Yeah, I
Regular
mean,
people,
typically,
okay.
yeah. So I don't know if that's, I don't know what sites are open and what sites aren't, but I don't know if there could be a certain designated area besides the tent camping. We already know that's designated up there, but that they could just be in one kind of area.
Yeah, Mark and I looked at that. Cameron, where's Cameron? Is he
Right behind you.
Are you Cameron?
Yes.
Really? Okay, I'm Randy. I'll try to help you, okay? I mentioned earlier when I brought that paper up there, maybe the back row, if Cameron would agree, that we could designate that for the campers. It's a lot easier to get,
Yeah, against the woods.
yeah, because that's easy to get,
That's what Mark had thought.
easy to get in and out of without riding on other people's property. But at the same time, a couple of campers might have to move into the campground from the back row to make that really work, so. Yeah. So that's something you have to work on.
It's nice to keep that front row for a permanent, nice looking camper. If you have it empty all the time, people are riding by, oh, they got a lot of lots empty, and it doesn't look as nice, because the front row pretty well is nice.
It is nice,
It is
yes.
nice, so having a nicer campers, like the people that are coming, maybe have them go into the front rows, or have other people opt if they want to go to the front row, but.
Well, I do think, I have to agree with the lady that made the comment. That is, I was kind of surprised. I didn't set that rate, Mark did, so. And she said it was $10 a night higher than the state was. So I didn't know if that was, because that is what we charged for holiday weekends, $45 a night last year. I do know that. So if we're gonna charge a premium for them, then we need to, I don't think that back row across by the woods is necessarily the premium sites. I hear what you're saying. I don't disagree with that either. But I personally, then I think we either need to adjust that rate if we're gonna put them across the back row or allow them access up to the front where it is nice.
I don't have a problem adjusting the rate lower, but putting them in that section in the back. I do like the idea of maybe a deposit for the people who are doing the.
Yes, I think if they're gonna come for the weekend, because I do think that is a potential problem, that we should charge them what
Security deposit.
security deposit.
We've camped a lot, and we've always paid an average of about $50 a night. We've camped all over the camp, all of 50 a night.
Yeah,
All
I
over
think
the all
45
over the
is
country.
good.
But that was full hookup though.
Most of the time it was
So,
full
you know,
hookup, so you go into 45,
Okay.
yeah.
Well,
The
what do they
state
charge for holiday
The
weekends?
state parks only have electric hookup.
Mhm.
And you guys have electric and water. You also include the entry to the beach too. A lot of the state parks do have beaches and such, but I've been to almost all the state parks in Indiana, and I don't recall any of them having water hookup.
Well, I think a full hookup would include sewage.
Oh, yeah, we do.
You don't have that, right?
No, we dump it ourselves.
Tonight, are you going to get into cable or internet tonight, Jeff?
No, we're not.
I don't think so, probably not.
Okay, I'm gonna direct the camera. Terry, they're not doing it tonight. He's watching.
Oh.
He's concerned about the internet.
Wi-Fi.
One of our
We're
other
not getting-
campers who's out on the road. So.
We might discuss it.
All right, I think there's some things we need to get straightened out. The big thing tonight was getting Cameron in place and Tabitha and get these things moving forward. We do still have a lot of things to work on. Do we need to make a decision about that?
Well,
now,
I
or do
think I don't know that we have to do it tonight, but it definitely by the next, because there are people asking and I keep,
Wasn't
and
that
they're very.
wasn't that part of like why there was an increase in
It
the
was.
rates too, that we were getting?
I don't know, I think it was in relation to you that put the post on there, so.
What, about
About
the state park?
Yeah, about it being too high, the
Just a
45 being
cousin,
too
but
high.
yeah, not
Oh.
that she's.
I noticed
there.
it was the same
Yeah,
name,
that was-
so.
yeah. I don't control what she puts.
I do think that's something we need to work
So-
on in soon, but
You
it's
just gotta
something we'll do with.
Yeah. No, the increase in for the Wi-Fi, for the rates in the Wi-Fi is what I was talking about.
Right, okay, well, that's something we need to address.
Well, but what are we gonna do about, because we've got, how many sites do you want to retain? Can we decide that tonight? And then,
How many's on that back row?
well, right now there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least 5 on the back row. But what Randy suggested was trying to get a couple of them open or to move. So there would be like 5 or 6 at least.
I thought there was only 2 people left.
There's three open right now in the back
Okay,
row.
okay.
3
How many
open.
sites- Wait a minute, just give me a second. How many sites altogether there?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
7 sites, but we can, if we just have weekenders there with pop-ups, we can double up some of them.
Because the sites are big.
Because the sites are that big, we can put pop-ups, power here, pop-up.
There's 2
Make-
double plugs.
We can
in
make
every
a
one.
lot of those lots double for smaller weekend campers. That's something Mark and I have discussed too.
Then I think it would be almost worth dropping that price down a little bit, especially if you're gonna be able to double them up or something.
Well, but I mean, we need to see how much do you think I mean, people call all the time, but you know, whether or not they actually come, like, you know.
And you need a deposit for sure.
I'm not a
Yeah.
big camper, so I couldn't
Especially
tell you.
holiday
Me neither,
weekends.
honey. I don't like
So
that.
what would you
I-
guys
I
say?
I wanna say like, when we very first started camping and we had a couple of our cousins come and they put up a tent and they actually put it on a site or they even put it on our site. Larry charged $20. If it was a holiday weekend, I believe it was $10 more or $15 more. Now campers, I believe it was 25 or 30 for just a regular normal weekend. And I believe it was $50 for a holiday weekend. A night.
You have to rent.
You have to be,
You have to
and it had to be,
3 nights.
yeah,
3
3
nights.
nights.
3
Holiday
nights.
week.
Holiday weekend.
Holiday you did Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
So why don't we look at 35 for the back row? Because it was at 45, you said?
45 is what, but what they're saying is they don't think that that's a bad price to 45.
I
A night.
It is not a bad price.
I don't think it is.
Not
Then
at
we'll
all.
leave it
If
there
you
for the
can't,
back
it's
row.
not.
And then, but how much would we charge for the holiday weekend? Because if we charge 45 a night, I mean, I would think that there'd be a.
I would
go to
think $10.
It is
$50 a night.
One
But it had to be
for,
Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Minimum of 3 nights.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
$50 minimum, 3 nights.
$50, okay, I'll make that as a motion. We'll leave the rates as set. And for holiday weekends, for just holiday weekends, a minimum of 3 nights at $50 a night.
Correct. And try to move those onto the back row, correct?
Yes,
and don't give them a site unless they give you a.
deposit. That's a good idea. So how much is the deposit, you guys?
Usually 1 night.
One night.
Yeah.
And
1 night
Kathy,
on a credit card.
Kathy, the state parks have you can reserve online and you reserve 6 months to the day that you want. And they are completely booked already for all of the holidays and they pay in full. So what a lot of the people are doing that want to go to a certain state park, if the holiday is like on say a Thursday, some of these people are actually booking 3 days before that. So they're guaranteed that spot because they can book that 6 months, but they don't show up until that Friday, but they're paid in full. And you probably want the campers, the weekenders to pay in full because if the weather doesn't look so hot on like Labor Day, not Labor Day, Memorial Day, they don't show up.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. So Cameron, maybe you can come up with a policy for that for us to approve at our next meeting. And so if we, with the deposit and the paid in full, and if they cancel like a week before, then they get a full refund. If they don't cancel a week before, then we start taking money back to keep it.
I would say a couple days before, even hotels don't charge you, and they give you 24-hour notice.
24 to 48.
Yeah,
24, 48,
hours
yeah.
notice.
I
If you
think the
don't, and then
state
you
parks
pay.
are a week.
Oh, it is
A
I
week.
think the state park is a week. You can look on Reserve America.
Well, but how many sites? How many sites do we retain for?
I'd say whatever's
Because then the other
available
one,
on that
there's
back row.
19 right now.
How many on the back row?
7 are open right now. The other 3 are easy to move.
So
So one
10.
of them may not even come back, John. We can move very easily. We've only got.
So you're saying 10.
What 10? There's 7 on the back row.
What is the other 3 you're talking about?
What?
You were talking about doing 10 possibly.
Well, how many are back in the back row?
There's 7 right
There's
now.
no,
Well, but there's 3 people.
no, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, campers. There's 7 in the back row. 3 of them right now are open already. We have 4 people that still have their
Okay.
campers there.
So there's a total of 7. That's what I would suggest.
But
is
there,
7.
but there's only 3 campers
Is that
there
a-
right now.
Well, I don't want to
Yeah,
get
the one lady
crosswise
next
with
to
the,
John's.
with some of the
she's
Starke
fine.
County people who
She's
claim they can never get in there either. I'd like to retain
And
that.
next to John's.
So we retain that.
Yeah, she's.
I make a motion that we retain 10 sites for nightly campers. And then that will leave at least 9 that we can offer to the folks that are on the list that, and I'll give you the list that I've gotten. I think Greg has gotten some too, so.
I'll second
And for the 3 dogs.
That's really all I want to do. As far as the payment policies,
Alright, we have-
Cameron, you can.
We have a motion and a second.
it.
All right.
Aye.
Okay. All right, next agenda item is the kayak launches.
Okay, the CVC, the Convention and Visitors Commission, met last week and took a look at, what kind of money that they had and the success of the programs that they funded last year or lack thereof, or and it was discussed about there is sufficient funds to pay for one of the kayak launches to be constructed, and so they voted to fund at least one kayak launch construction this year. So what I would suggest we do is get Bob Aloy to update the cost of, because that was a couple of years ago. Mary gave me the cost that we're currently on there. And then by the next meeting, that we can choose which one and ask the CVC to which one we want them to construct for us. I mean. Okay, so it's a motion that Bob update the construction costs of those sites.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Aye.
Aye.
Approval of claims and paying routine utilities. We have 2 claims, I believe. I have a motion to accept the claims.
I'll make the motion.
For what is the claim?
Park Board Secretary and both of them, I think.
Okay, I'll second that.
Would I?
Aye.
Nay. Ayes win. They're approved. Do I sign this or just?
You'll.
You
sign
can,
it, so
yeah.
here, Vice President.
Next agenda item is any business that comes before the board. Does anyone have any comments about anything?
I have a question.
Yes.
The campgrounds, are they gonna do anything to fix the roads so they don't flood so bad?
I think it was on the 5-year plan.
That is on the 5-year plan, and that is something that will be eligible for grants. And we will.
That and trees never got done.
The trees
did not get done?
They never did
No.
anything. They took we have 20 miles of mulch.
Yeah,
in that
somebody
back area.
put the tree trimming people back where they put short stations, filled that area with mulch. But they never went through and trimmed none of the trees because
I
the
thought they
branches
had
hanging
one.
over his camper are
It's
still
still there.
hanging
Ours is still hanging.
over their camper, the broken
They
branches.
just trimmed in the area and brought it all to the
They trimmed
campground.
on the Bass Lake and they kept raining.
And brought it all to the, and
Finally
some of the
got it
shore
done.
stations
So-
aren't even gonna be able to get out.
Whoever's job it's gonna be, the mulch,
That's a mess.
is gonna be a mess because they're like probably 2 or 3 semi-loads of mulch
At least-
piled up
at least.
that are in the way
We're
of
gonna have to
people getting
contact-
shore stations out.
We have to contact Davies Tree Service.
Well, I tried to contact them because Larry,
You didn't get a hold of them?
no, I couldn't find a phone number for him. If you Googled it, there's no phone number. And somebody finally, might have been one of the campers, finally saw them somewhere, took a picture of their truck and sent it to me, and there's no phone number on it. But what they did tell me was that they were from Ohio, and they were working here under a contract for NIPSCO. Yes.
Well, you got a mess.
It's not a mulch you can use either.
We'll try to find a contact
Did you get the
information.
corrected spelling that I sent you?
DABEY.
I tried several different
It
spellings,
is DAVEY, that's it.
and I have the picture of the truck, and I probably got it. I don't remember who sent it to me. But somebody sent me a picture of one of the trucks and there was no telephone number on there.
Yes.
Back to the 5-year plan, if you didn't make decisions of what went in and out of it tonight, and you have to have it drafted by next meeting, do you have another meeting scheduled?
We may have to schedule another meeting.
And it will be online when you do that, or how do you do that?
Typically, it's online.
I mean, the schedule is online. Will you be doing it when you do that too?
What'd you say?
Because I think
Zoom.
tonight, the first time you zoomed, will you be zooming from now on, she said, right? So you'll zoom that one
Well,
too.
I don't know. We don't always Zoom them. I mean, it just depends on.
Is that opened up at the park? Is it campground that's opened up where you can get in there?
No, it's locked in the front, but you can get in. I mean, I have a key.
I'm just gonna go take some pictures of all that mulch and stuff like that.
Okay.
Any
You need
key
it.
opens the lock.
Yeah.
Any key
Randy
will open
said
the lock.
for a pocket knife.
No, use a key though, it's easier.
Okay, and I did,
Get back up there.
okay, and I did talk with Larry's Marina. Life jackets, we just have to go in and pick out. And I think everything was taken care of on the piers, so
So the piers were ordered, the
I
aluminum.
believe so. That's probably something that she can just check on, Cameron can check on.
Okay. Now, one thing I noticed on the 5-year plan, I could have swore he told us that was $90,000 total, but there's only 60,000 on there.
I don't think he got all of them. I think he got what he could at this time, I think is what it said, so.
So is it
40.
60,000 that we're gonna be spending to get it all done?
That I don't know. I think he told me that there was 40 piers, 40 sets of piers.
Right, any other items?
Um,
Go ahead.
On the piers, there was somebody asked, and they called and asked me if I had a layout of them. 'Cause
Oh,
I didn't have a layout.
Rick across the street
Do
from,
you need a picture?
Yeah.
I got it on my phone.
yes, that'd be very
It doesn't
helpful.
have the names of the people.
But at least it
but
shows
it's
the
a
layout.
Of how it
Okay.
was.
Yeah, if you can send that, that'd be great.
Actually, Rick's got it because I sent him, it's on my receipt and I
Right,
sent it
okay.
to your phone.
All right.
And it's got the layout of the
Yeah, I'll make
south.
sure
pier.
Cameron has
Yeah,
it.
I showed Cameron that.
Right, okay. Any other comments?
I do have a comment.
Yes.
When can we go in, and like pick up leaves that are left behind and branches and such? I'm not bringing my camper for a while, but I want to clean up my site.
And mulch?
Can we schedule something if Cameron wants to help putting it together, a group of campers, that's what we've done in the past,
I
got
think that's a great
together
idea.
and go and couple, if it's a couple weekends. But with, with some kind of, something, an incentive for the campers that are offering to come in and help and do that. Because with 19 open campsites, let's face it, that's a lot of campsites to clean up just our own. So can there be some kind of a incentive for the campers that are willing to do that?
We'll have to discuss that and Cameron can arrange, give her a week or two to get settled in.
Okay.
And then we can go from there.
Okay.
'Cause it's-
Yeah, I'll run a couple ideas by her too.
Okay.
All right, any other comments?
And we can start making payments as soon as Cameron.
Get situated and yes.
Next week, yeah, next week.
Excellent, thank you.
Anyone on the Zoom have a comment?
Yeah, I have, it's Attorney Aaron Robbins. Just real quick comment. So earlier we talked about the 5-year plan.
We can't hear you.
Park in between that little sliver of her. Apparently there's also, there's mention of it on the website as well. Obviously, again, same concerns we had before. I just wanted to formally request that you guys remove mention of that sliver of land being a park or a beach or anything of that sort from the website. I think there's mention of like a dam area, essentially that's got a pavilion, it'd be really nice. I think that would make more sense maybe to be in place of that. And that's something that would be, I guess, much more appropriate to be featured on your website, more so than just a sliver of land. Again, I'll get the letter out to you guys, but I just want to make sure that I did mention that to you guys for consideration.
Okay, thank you. We appreciate the comment. Any other comments? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second.